So in my last video I mentioned PiVPN and I said that I would go more into detail about it. So today I'm creating a video on how to set up a VPN service on your Raspberry Pi with PiVPN. So PiVPN, it's basically an open VPN installer but built for the Raspberry Pi. It has basically a set of shell scripts that can easily turn your Raspberry Pi into a VPN server. So this is the PiVPN website. You can already see that nice installation curl command that allows you to install the bash scripts easily to get PiVPN set up. One word of advice would be to always make sure you check the code behind that bash script before deciding to copy and paste it into your terminal to execute, just in case the code behind it has any sort of malicious code that can exploit your machine, for example. I guess another thing to think about with security is with a VPN service, you are opening yourself up to the internet, so you will potentially get attackers that are trying to brute force their way in. The good thing about PiVPN is that it's pretty much out of the box as a service to install, so they have upgraded things. So me as a dev, I'm quite confident that I can use PiVPN without having to worry about security. So let's get on with this installation. So we're going to need to copy that curl command because we're going to need to use it when we do install PiVPN. So firstly, we're going to need to SSH into the Raspberry Pi. And once we've done this, we're then going to paste the curl command that we just copied. This command is then going to pull down the code from their website, which is a shell script, and then start running it in the terminal. As you can see, it started to do the updates, which does take some time, so I'm going to skip this part. So now that the installation has checked for updates, it will go ahead and install any updates that were available for any of the packages that are required. So once this is done, the installation will start for PiVPN. PiVPN will notify you to have a static IP address set up for your Raspberry Pi. This is just because port forwarding has to be set up on your router to allow the default or your chosen port for the VPN service to work on, so that it can route the traffic through to the Raspberry Pi. So next it will ask you what interface it will want the VPN service to listen on. I have mine set to the Ethernet interface just because my Raspberry Pi runs through the Ethernet port and not the Wi-Fi. Now because I already have a static IP address, I'm just going to click yes. However, if you haven't got that set up yet, it's probably good to do so. So next it will ask you what user it will want to install the OpenVPN configurations to. I chose the Pi user. There is a Pi-hole user for me just because I have Pi-hole installed. That might be the case for some of you, but for a lot of you it probably won't be. Now because one port is open to the internet, it gives you the option to install security patches automatically. This is something that is definitely important, so I chose yes. So now it will go ahead and configure the user along with configuration files for OpenVPN, and then carry on with the installer. So then it will ask you what protocol do you want to use. I chose UDP, and I also chose the default port for the VPN. It's probably best to change that, but for now I'm just using the default one. So then it asks you what level encryption do you want. I chose 2048 just because I feel that 4096 is slightly over the top. That's totally up to you. It then decides to generate the private keys. This does take a while, so I will skip this part. So once the private keys have been generated, it will then add some rules to the firewall. and then it will ask you how will the clients connect. Will it be either by public IP or DNS name? I chose public IP for now, but it's probably better to use a public DNS because your external IP, or I should say WAN IP, will usually change depending on your internet service provider. So once this is done, it will ask you what DNS provider you want to choose. I chose custom because I use Pi-hole to manage my DNS, but if you don't have Pi-hole running, then I suggest you use Google's DNS. Once this is done, it lets you know how easily you can add clients by just typing PiVPN space add. And then it tells you that you do need to reboot your machine, so it's best to do that straight after the installation is complete. So now that the installation is complete, we can now add a client. PiVPN add will allow us to add a client by taking us through a set of steps. So this one will be for my iPhone, for example. So I can enter the name of the client, and then I can enter the password. It will then generate me a private key and a OpenVPN profile, which I can copy to my machine and transfer to my iPhone to use with the OpenVPN app. So just a small tip: to copy files from your Raspberry Pi, you can use SCP command, which will securely copy a file via SSH from the remote machine to your local machine. As you can see in the example above, I've done that and I've saved it into my downloads folder. You should now have a fully working installation of PiVPN on your Raspberry Pi. The one thing you should do is set up a port forward to the port you chose for your VPN to set as the WAN port and the LAN port to your Raspberry Pi. So with the file that you just transferred, you'll need to copy that to your iPhone or your Android device and use the OpenVPN app to connect to your VPN network. I will post a link down below. If you have any questions or need any help, then please feel free to leave a comment. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. Make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe and hit that thumbs up button, and I'll be back with some more videos soon. Thanks.